This is not business as usual. Just this weekend, we've seen protests up and down the country, some of them absolutely enormous. And to me, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it's the English people finally recognizing themselves, seeing themselves for who they are, looking left and right, shoulder to shoulder, and seeing that they're not alone. And I think that's really powerful. Anyway, you came here to take a look at some protests. So we'll start with one in Manchester, where Paul Golding put on a march for remigration. To me, that is spectacular, and I just love to see so many English flags in the crowd. Now, I mentioned earlier that this was a march for remigration, and some of you may have never heard of this concept before. Maybe you've been living under a rock. But the idea is pretty simple. You want more people to leave the country than are entering it. We didn't consent to mass immigration, and now we want to see that reversed. We're not happy for mass immigration to just stop, which it still hasn't. We want it to be reversed. Okay, that's the broad concept. I also mentioned that this was set up by Paul Golding on behalf of Britain First. And in the past, I've said that I don't really see Britain First as a political party, even though technically they are. And I think I stand by that statement. I said in a previous video that I see them more as a street protest movement. And I think that's still true, right? Maybe in the future that will change and I will change my opinion about that. But look, that is one hell of a street protest that they've put on. In fact, let's take a look at another angle of it. But it wasn't just Manchester. Yesterday in Islington, outside the Barbican Thistle Hotel, there was a protest. Why? Well, because 41 of the migrants staying in that hotel have been charged with 90 criminal offences. And unsurprisingly, the locals aren't too happy about it.
Got my thingy up.
Unfortunately, they weren't actually able to protest where they were meant to because a horde of masked up Antifa guys showed up and blocked the route. Weirdly, they seem to be shouting some non-English phrase that I just can't understand. Anyway, they were later seen waving and cheering at the migrants in the hotel who were filming them back using their iPhones. Yeah, iPhones that we paid for. There is some good news though, because for a brief moment, the police did some policing. I'm pretty sure they even made some arrests whilst they were there.
Can you move back, please?
This is now happening up and down the country every day. Local communities have just had enough. But I guarantee that the government has no idea why this is happening. They're just scratching their heads, wondering, why are people so upset? Well, if you step away from your worldview for just 1 minute and look at how perverse the governance in this country has been for the last 50 years, look at how people have voted, how many times they've told you they want lower migration, only for you to betray them every single time. Okay, so that's why this is happening. People have had enough. But of course, people in the civil service, people in the government, they just can't see this. They just don't seem to understand it. And so they press on. In fact, 2 days ago at the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf at 1:30 in the morning, under the cover of darkness, very sneaky, they bust a load of migrants in, hoping, of course, that nobody would see it. But someone did see it.
The time is 1:33, the 1st of August.
And guess what? Just 1 day later, they were already trying to leave the hotel on their delivery bikes to work illegally. Fortunately, a couple of patriots stopped them.
Tell me this. Look at this, guys. Look at this, guys. Look at this, guys. Yeah, tell me these ain't delivery drivers. Tell me these ain't delivery drivers, guys. Oh shit. There we go. Georgina, I'm modding you. Georgina, message something quickly so I can see your name again.
It won't surprise you then to know that there are fresh protests outside that hotel today. Look, I think you get the picture. This is happening all over the country and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. People are angry. And quite frankly, it's not that surprising. The government has placed people into these communities, in these hotels, despite having access to the statistics which show them that it will put those communities in danger. And yet they did it anyway. Remember, the first duty of government is to protect its citizens. These people that they're putting in hotels, not citizens. The people that they're endangering, citizens. So our government has failed in its basic first duty. There's no other way of putting it. There's no other way around it. That's it. And as Douglas Carswell says, they're going to realize at some point that they cannot contain this for much longer. Anyway, that's just a short video covering these protests. And I felt like I really had to do it because while some of you will see this on social media and you'll be more clued up about what's going on up and down the country, you know, the BBC aren't going to talk about this. Sky News aren't going to talk about this unless it turns violent, and then they'll just make it all about far-right protests and riots. Okay, that's all they'll discuss. The peaceful protests, they won't make it to the mainstream media's attention. So that's why we do it here. There's one other thing I want to say. I refer to myself as English a lot, not British, which is ironic, I know, because my name is British Lander. And I don't want people who are Welsh or Scottish or Ulsterman to take some kind of offence from that. It's just that I'm starting to reject the idea of British. Not that I reject the Welsh, the Scottish and the Northern Irish, far from it. But British nowadays just seems to mean anybody in the world who is, you know, waiting for a passport, right? It's just ridiculous. We've got British Indians, British Pakistanis, British Nigerians, British everything. But the one thing that cannot be taken away from me, that is entirely unique, that cannot be granted with a passport, is my Englishness. You're either English or you're not. So Rishi Sunak, I don't hate Rishi Sunak, okay? I don't think he was a great Prime Minister, but let's be honest, he was passed a bit of a hospital pass by Boris Johnson. But Rishi Sunak, he's not English. He's an anglicised Indian. He's a British Indian, but he's not English, okay? I am English, and that can't be taken away from me. So if someone comes to me and says, you know, I see myself as Scottish, not British, really, I'm completely okay with that. I don't take any offence from that. But the other thing I'll say is the English identity, more than Welsh or Scottish or Northern Irish, has been stripped away from us and dumbed down in a way that I don't think the other parts of the kingdom really understand. You know, we've been told that our flag is inherently bad and racist and we should be ashamed of it and things like that. And it's just ridiculous. I am starting to see some good things coming out of the country. Apparently one English guy in Birmingham was told to take down his St. George's flag, his English flag, and then he bought 100 more and plastered them all over the city. So I love that. And apparently people are painting roundabouts with the English flag. It's great. I really, really love to see that. So when I refer to myself as English, I'm not doing that to offend the Scottish or the Welsh or the Northern Irish. It's just that I am English, okay? I'm very, very proud of that, and nobody can take that away from me or misuse the term, although they will try sometimes, but nobody can remove that quality from me in the same way they can't take away your actual Scottishness or your Welshness or your Northern Irishness, your Ulstermanness, okay? I just want to make that clear. I don't want to offend anybody. Anyway, please do leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll try and reply to quite a lot of comments. Yesterday I had a bit of a family emergency, not going to talk about it, I'm totally fine. In fact, everyone's totally fine in the end, but I had to go to the hospital right as I was replying to comments. So I didn't manage to reply to as many as I usually do, so I'm sorry about that, but I'll make an effort to make up for it today. And yeah, I'll see you in a future video. Thank you very much.